Hey there, welcome to a show where me and Tierney here, say hi Tierney, it's on you.
Hey guys.
We're going to reveal the new power rankings. That's why you clicked on this video, because you want to see what the new power rankings are. So we're going to start from the top. And Tierney, why don't you go ahead and say who number 12 coming in the very bottom of the power rankings is.
Coming in number 12, we have the Sasquatches. And I don't think there can really be any argument about this because they have a big fat of number of players on their roster. So kind of hard to do anything with them.
Yeah, so I mean, we're sure that, they won't always be 12, but, we were kind of holding off the new power rankings because we were kind of waiting for free agency to, kind of take its course at least a little bit and have team rosters fill back up after, some players weren't, on necessarily, they had to get re-signed or they went to, all that kind of stuff. So we were kind of waiting for that to go off. And we kind of waited as long as we wanted to. Unfortunately, the Sasquatch still haven't anyone on the team, though Josh Wall, the general manager, says they're going to soon, but they don't right now. So that's why the 12 kind of hard to be, anything but the bottom when you don't have anyone on the roster. So next is 11, and kind of the same deal, except they have two players on their roster, Zach Sheldon and Taylor Spears Van Camp, and Tierney, that is the Storm. And they really weren't that good last year anyway. So even if they had, re-signed like Tyler Hudson and Kyle Koopman to their team, which I don't know if they're going to do that or not, they'd probably still be down in this area. Do you think they're going to rise a little bit, throughout the offseason or the year from 11 where they're at right now?
Maybe, but I don't see them jumping a whole lot up, maybe one or two spots. It kind of depends on who else they get.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of free agents out there. That's the problem. So the way I see it is the way they're going to improve the Storm would be, like getting rookies who we would never have seen play before. And then it's kind of hard to say, well, we got to move them up real high because they have this rookie that we've never seen play. So, I don't know if they're going to be able to get very high in the offseason. It probably, they probably wouldn't move up significantly if they do move up significantly until the actual season when, that kind of thing. And that kind of ties into who's number 10, which is the Lawmen, and their whole team basically is rookies. So that's kind of the reason they're 10 because, they've got some players we think might end up being good players, but, we've never seen any of them play before except Riley Larson. So, Tierney, I assume you think that they should be 10 as well.
Yeah, they're in a better situation than both the Storm and the Sasquatches because they actually have a few more people on their roster. But like you said, we don't know who they are. We don't know if they can play, if they can't play. So it's kind of hard. So they're just going to be towards the bottom until they can prove themselves, basically.
So there you go. For 12 through 10, it's basically three teams that have a lot up in the air right now. But luckily, teams 9 through 1 pretty much have their whole team set. A little bit could change here and there, but pretty much what they got now is what you're going to get at JL 15, we assume. So now we get into kind of the more meaty, more interesting things. Because not to say those other three teams aren't interesting, but like what we were saying, Sasquatches don't have any players on their team yet. Storm, who knows what's going to happen there. And then Lawmen have a full team, but they're pretty much all rookies, so kind of hard to say so. Now we're going to get into the interesting stuff. So number 9, Tierney, why don't you let them know who number 9 is?
Number 9 is the Underdogs. And, Kale, I want to know what you think about their chances of moving up or down in the future.
I think that it's hard to say. You know what? If I had to bet money on it, I would bet money on them moving down. Just because I think like the Storm, they could maybe get a new guy or two or something, Tyler Hudson, and they maybe get good. And then, those that Lawman team, they could end up being real good. And who knows what could happen with the Sasquatches here. So those three teams I could all see overtaking them. You know what I'm saying? And based on what the Underdogs have now, and probably nothing about their roster too drastically is going to change this offseason, and kind of who else, those other 8 teams that are ahead of them. I mean, I think the Underdogs have potential with this roster to turn into a playoff team in like another season or two, but I would put my money on those other 8 teams to stay ahead of them if I had to put money on it. So, but the Underdogs, they definitely have like a good foundation now. I don't think it's a championship foundation, but they have a good foundation to where they could become a respectable competitive team within a couple seasons. What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I don't know that what they have right now is going to cut it playoff-wise, but it's decent.
Okay. I'll reveal number 8, and number 8 is the Toodle Lynx, and I think they could move up. They're not going to move up, I don't think, this offseason because, this offseason there really isn't any veteran rookie or veteran players out there, for fair to say, like what we're talking about, that I think if you picked them up now would be like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden this team's, Guthrie was like the best one and he's already signed. So now we're talking about like Nick Proudfit and all those things. Maybe they could get someone like that, but I don't think that moves them up really. And rookies, like what we were saying, if they went out and got some more rookies, you can't really move them up based on that either. So, but I do think once the season starts, the Lynx are definitely a team to watch out for. I think they're an up-and-coming team. I think Morton's going to have a good second season at pitcher. I think Heinzman's going to improve at batter. And, I think they're going to get someone else, too, that's half decent that'll help them out at some point. So I think they have potential to move up. I like this good young team here. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think what they have now is that they just need to build and grow with what they have because they have a good foundation. They just need to kind of work into it.
Yeah. Yes. And I got to give props to the ownership of the Lynx. And that's not just because it's my girlfriend's mother that owns the team. But, they were a really good team for a number of seasons, and then they lost their star player and they kind of had to re-scrap it all from the bottom. And I think at one point, right after they lost him, they were literally like the bottom-ranked team. But, give it a couple seasons, and now they've worked their way up to 8 in the power rankings. Give it a couple more seasons. I think they could move back up into the upper half tier. So they're good at clawing their way back and keeping themselves relevant, even when the cards get stacked against them, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too.
All right, let's talk about number 7. You can go ahead and reveal that one.
All right, for number 7, guys, we have the Rapids. There was a little bit of debate on placement of the Rapids, but they ended up coming in 7th place or in the 7th rank, whatever you want to call it. And I think they belong in 7 because all those teams below them I think are clearly below them. And there might be some conversation about moving them up 1 or 2 spots maybe, but just going off of last season and not having Ty and not having the best season that, they didn't perform all that well. I think they kind of deserve to be middle of the pack. What do you think?
I think based off last season, yes, they do. And that's partially what goes into these rankings for sure. But if I had to take that out of the equation, this is a team that went through a lot of bad luck last season. Ty, who was their best player, I don't know if he's their best player anymore now, because they got some new pieces to that team. But at the time when he got injured, he was definitely their best player. And, missed the rest of the season. Then they brought in a bunch of rookies. And, those rookies definitely developed as the season went on. And we think they have a lot of potential, but, they're rookies. That's what happens in the league. You don't win a lot when you're rookies. So they kind of had to go through that. And then they just had a massive amount of turnover on their roster. Like if you go back and look at their JL15 roster, you can have a maximum of like 5 players on their team. I think in JL15 they went through 9 different players. Like at one point, 9 different players were part of the Rapids roster, which is ridiculous. So they went through a lot of bad stuff last season, but this is a dangerous team. I would not want to mess with this team. They've been to a lot of conference finals in the last few seasons. They've done a lot of good stuff. And they have a lot of good young talent. They're going to move up from number 7. You can trust me on that one.
I agree with that.
Who's number 6?
What? Number 6, we have the Bison. And why don't you start us off on that one?
6. Okay. And as you can tell, I'm in a different spot. We had some technical difficulties up there. I had to pause the video and go to a different location. But anyways, number 6 is the Columbia Bison. And I think it's a good spot for them. I mean, they were a playoff team last season. Surprised a lot of people. They have good young talent too. And well, I wouldn't say collectively they have good young talent, but they have one good young player, and that's Eric Titus. And I think he's going to keep getting better. But at the same time, they have other players on their team: James French, McKinley Franklin, Michael Screen. I don't know what his status is exactly either. Like, I know he moved to Idaho, so that could be problematic for them. But the point is, they have, the rest of their team is guys that I think have like maxed out their skills in JL. I mean, they've been in the JL for several seasons now, and I think they've kind of hit their peak. So I think the whole team getting better depends on how good Eric can become. And right now he's good. He's not great. That's why they're number 6.
Yep, I think you pretty much summed that one up. So number 5.
Who's number 5?
And that is the Waves.
Make the Wrecking Crew upset.
Yeah.
Not the Wrecking Crew, the Waves. It's going to make the Waves upset. They're below the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah. I think there's some controversy probably about this too, but I think if you look at the overall, which is kind of what this is all about. I mean, you take everything into consideration, right? So overall, the franchise of the Waves and how long they've been in the league, and then you look at the Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew clearly has a better status, a better record, better just feel, I think, overall. I think the Waves are definitely on the rise, and I think they could easily move up. And, it just depends on how well they do in this coming season. But for now, they are at number 5.
Yeah, I like I think Anthony is a really underrated owner / general manager. I think he does a good job. Each year he's put together a better and better team. But that being said, they're still just a good team. They're not a great team until they prove they're a great team. And to be that, they're going to have to show they can beat the Cobras. So, I mean, they have a good pitcher in Adam. They have fantastic batting, honestly. And Mason, Adam, Tate Klein, and Lane. And Nussbaum is not a horrible batter. So they definitely have a lot of offense. What remains to be seen is if their defense can win them games. I think they benefit a little bit from being in the National Conference. I think if they were in the American Conference, they'd have a lot harder time making the playoffs and being like in that contender conversation like they are in the National. But they are a good team. There's no denying that. I think they fit very well at 5. So number 4 is the Wrecking Crew. And I think these teams are kind of similar, except they're like the opposite. Like the Waves are like this really good offensive team with defense that's, kind of hit or miss. And then the Wrecking Crew are like the opposite. They have offense that's really hit or miss and pretty good defense, I would say. So I think they're pretty similar. They just bring 2 different things to the table. But I think they're both at like that same level. It's just I would give the edge to the Wrecking Crew a little bit, and you seem to feel the same way.
Yeah, I do. I think you kind of hit that one right on the nose. And they're similar. It's just that one is offense and one's defense, really, is what you're looking at. And just Wrecking Crew have kind of proved themselves. They have had offense when they've needed it in the past. So, I mean, it's kind of up in the air. But we ended up going with Wrecking Crew for 4. And for 3, I'm going to let you start this off because it's your team, the Cobras.
Yeah, Cobras, I mean, there was a little bit of discussion about maybe they should be 2 over who we'll reveal as 2 in a second. But at the end of the day, I think it just came down to when you look at, the full – because, I think Vermillion as the ace pitcher of the Cobras, he can compete with Colton Titus and Nate Williamson and Kyle Godino and Michael Sullivan and those guys. Like, he's in that conversation in terms of being that good of a player. But the rest of the team collectively, we just didn't feel like is good enough to be number 2 with, knocking out either the Bambinos or the Express. So the Cobras are 3. I would say, Nate, Caden Vanderwerf, Tyler Traver, that's a better 3 than myself, Sean Godino, and, Bryce Desarmo. So after their best players, I think it's just the rest of the team's better. And I think on any given day, the Cobras could beat, one of those 2 teams. But I think more often than not, the Bambinos would beat the Express or the Express would beat the Bambinos.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So
let's move on to number.
Yeah, you can start with number 2. Number 2 is the Cowlitz Bambinos and Tierney. We thought all season that they were the best team in the league until it got to the playoffs. So is that why they're number 2?
I mean, I definitely think that has something to do with it because it's always, you look at the past, 2-3 seasons, and it's always been Bambinos Express. Well, not always, but that's been a lot of the talk around the league, who's going to be better, who's going to beat who. It's developed into this new rivalry, which is really cool. And it's fun. But I think in the end, the Express have, once again, proved themselves more over a longer period of time. And they also beat them this last season. So I don't see any way that the Bambinos, they're good. They're a great team. And they're always really fun to watch. But I think for now they belong at number 2.
And is it just because the Express won the championship? Let's say let's say the Cobras would have ended up being the Express in the Chicken Dinner Cup. Would you have then made the because we literally went the whole season pretty much saying, me, you, Time Brock, saying the Bambinos are the best team. We think the Express are the second best team. And then that really didn't change until after the playoffs and the Express ended up winning the championship. So let's say the Cobras would have won the championship. Would you have still gone back to, Bambinos are higher than the Express?
I think I still probably would have had the Express above Bambinos.
So if you match them up, if you had to put $100 on the game and they were just going to play right now, you would think the Express are going to win?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Because I'll be honest, I think the Bambinos might be better. I think they might be a better team. But I'll be honest, that kind of stuff comes into, the clutchness of the Express, the championship pedigree of the Express, 3 championships in 4 seasons. I think if you matched them up player to player, the Bambinos might be better. But I take all that other stuff into equation when I make my rankings. And so I have a different way of making them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But, yeah, number 1 is obviously the Missouri Express. Very well deserved. Defending champs. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if we made a rankings where the defending champs weren't the number 1 team to start the next season.
Yeah.
It would have to be really fluky. But, so those are the power rankings. We're sure they're going to change throughout the rest of the offseason because we're sure rosters are going to look a little different from right now to when the season starts on June 11th. So we're sure there'll be a little bit of change. And then, obviously, when the season gets started, that's when they're really going to change. But I think this is definitely a good starting point for the rankings. I think it's a fair starting point, most of all. Any last comments, Tierney?
Not really. It's been fun talking with you guys.
All right.
Wrap it up?
Yeah. All right. That's it for the show. Thanks for tuning in.